Hey guys, welcome to Project Esports for January 21st, 2019. We're on a third episode of the year, and honestly, it's good because we are finally back in the esports season. I feel like this is the first week we actually have a wide variety of news about different esports going on, and it's back, boys. How are you doing, though? We got so much news to talk about, but I feel like it's actually been a while since we chatted, and how are you guys doing today?
You gonna go first, or am I gonna go? How are we doing this? You're muted, but so I'm gonna go first. So I'm doing good. I'm doing all right. School's getting a little hellish, but what else is new? I got my first week of LEC. That was really fun. It was mixed emotions, but yeah.
I'm unmuted now and I'm doing good. I played a bunch of Magic, Paper Magic, Magic Arena. I just been diving into those children's card games, so I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, and I guess I've kind of been the same way. I watched a lot. I watched almost all the LEC. We had Runaway play earlier this week too. Some good Overwatch games. It's been a pretty good week for me too. And yeah, like I said, we're going to be talking about a couple of those things coming up. But I'm glad to be back, and it feels like it's a long time. And I don't know. Let's just get to the news, I guess, at this point. But yeah, no housekeeper or anything like that, so I just want to jump right into it because we have so many topics for once. I want to talk about the LEC. You mentioned you watched a little bit of it. I watched a lot of it. I'm not even going to ask Dylan if you watched any of it.
Yeah, because I watched it.
Yeah, you watched every single minute.
Did you watch any of it? Of course not. I'm allowed to be hopeful. I'm allowed to hope that you tuned into at least one professional league game.
Maybe one of these days. And every time to chair, I'll watch some of it. But,
there you go.
So there's a lot of kind of things I want to talk about this. But before we get into the stats or any of that kind of stuff, I just want to hear, James, what you think about the design. We saw kind of the announcement video, but how did the day of the events actually look to you? Did you like the overlays? Did you like the hosting? Did you like the cast? Just tell me what your first impressions kind of are from the first 2 days of it.
Right. Okay. Cool. So I like the rebranding. The rebranding's really slick. It's really nice. The how they do in between games and stuff like that. The overlay they chose for that is really, really nice. I'm into that. They acquired Frostgurn, which is really cool. I've always been a big fan of Frostgurn, when she was doing LPL. And I actually was one of the few reasons I actually watched the LPL, because she was one of my favorite personalities, mainly because she just doesn't give a shit. She just she'll mouth off to everybody, and usually she's right. Usually she has a good amount of justification. So I think she's been a great addition. Especially because they don't have Deficio consistently anymore, which is, I think, it's not a huge loss, but it is a loss, because Deficio is such a face. Him and Quickshot have some of the best chemistry, known to League of Legends. Other than that, though, how they kind of set up the stage and everything like that, it was all really well done. I don't know, I'm getting kind of sick of the matte, not even matte colors, but it's just they're basically, it's two colors, that's it. It's black and something else, and that's how they've done all their graphics now. So there's not a ton of boominess and stuff like that, but it's whatever color they pick is very in your face. So I don't know, as somebody who kind of appreciates minimalism, that kind of works. But yeah, I guess other than that, besides getting into the actual games and what happened with those, the LEC rebranding overall, I'm a big fan of it. I think it was needed. I think it's justified, and I think their separation from between them and the NALCS is it's a good thing. I'm happy about it.
So do you vote for the EU LCS or the LEC?
I'm a big fan. I like the LEC. I like LEC. Every other region is 3 letters. Except for NA and EU LCS, they were the only ones. So let's get on that bandwagon.
No, yeah, I agree. For the most part, I really enjoyed a lot of the rebranding. The overall rebranding, the colors they use, all that kind of stuff. I'm a huge fan of that. There's nothing kind of branding and graphics wise at the big picture that I didn't like. One, I thought the picks and bans kind of screen was a little different. I wasn't used to it. It kind of had it on the bottom versus the side. I know they're trying to change up from other divisions, other regions, but I guess I just come so used to kind of being used to the side by side.
Seeing on this, no, and I watched the I'm gonna butcher the name. I don't even know if I'm gonna try and pronounce it. The Dota major that's going on right now in China, or I think it may have just wrapped up over the weekend. I'm not too sure. But that's how they do their picks and bans. They do the picks and bans all at the bottom. and it's they have like a camera for the commentators at the top, which I like. I was like kind of like off put, but like I mean, I see why League does it. It looks good. It wasn't. I don't know. I don't mind it. It's different.
I didn't hate it. I think it was just kind of different for me. That the in-game overlay, I had a huge issue with. Actually, it was so big. I mean, if you're looking at kind of my screen here, so this, and this is all kind of just graphics, and only here, like just a small part of the map, the screen actually felt like it was gameplay. I know you always have the player icons on the side, but I mean, almost the bottom third of the entire screen was just one big overlay showing the map, the graphics, all that kind of stuff, and it just seemed so much more busy compared to other things. And when they had the Baron power play, that took up a huge amount of room and all that kind of stuff. Like, I get the partnerships, and you had to do that.
Well, I was just gonna say, because like the Baron power play is brought to you by Shell.
I love that. I
was just gonna say,
thank you, Mr. Shell.
Exactly. Which I mean, like, so I mean, they're paying for it, right? So,
and I get that, but I think they are minimalistic in everywhere except for the overlay, which I think minimalistic is the most important part of that, because I saw a lot of people complaining about it. I had a problem with it, but not even talking about the graphics. There was so many technical issues. I think there's more technical issues on day one of the LEC than the entire season of Overwatch League.
Yeah,
like,
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
It just that's just how it felt. That's probably not true, but it just seemed like to be one thing after another. I mean, the very first game of the entire LEC season, they played for 15 minutes, and then have a remake.
Yeah,
like that is not how you want to start a season, with a remake right away. Sure, it's Fnatic, and people got the memes for Fnatic paid them off to get the restart. Fnatic still went on to lose that, so that didn't matter. But that was the very first game, and that just set the mood for the entire rest of the day. I didn't watch day 2, but I thought there was a couple issues at day 2.
There was, and believe it or not, again, it was with Fnatic. There was it wasn't exclusively Fnatic. I think there was one other team that there was issues with it. But like there was quite a few this seemed to be a bad week for technical issues. We're gonna get into it later, but it's it was a gong show.
I mean, so I guess kind of for my overall impressions of the LEC so far, I mean, branding and graphics, I like the number scale, like 7 out of 10. Like, there's a couple things they can fix. They maybe cut some things back, change some things up. I think that could be really well. I mean, technical issues in overall weekend, 6 out of 10, because when you have such a big weekend like that with the whole rebrand, you want everything to go perfect. Imagine if the Overwatch League opened up day 1 and was like that. That would have been such a bad kind of look. And they're lucky this is just a rebrand, not a start of something new. But in any other situation, that would have been the death of a league. Not death of a league, but a very big impact on the numbers for the long run.
I think, like, the fans at this point aren't even really surprised when this stuff happens. Like, it's like EU production. Like, people just meme that. And, like, so there's two things about people saying EU production and it not being a bad thing. Is one, it doesn't fester into anything worse. It stays in Twitch chat and it stays there and nobody makes a big deal out of it. And two, everybody's okay with it. Everybody's used to it. So I mean, like, it's not a bad thing. So I just to kind of go with your score, I'm gonna go for rebranding. I'm gonna go 8. I really like it. I really like that they've really like modernized it. And what was the other thing you scored?
The kind of the overall weekend, opening weekend. Everything.
I want to give it a 5. I don't think opening weekend you should have a remake. I don't think that's good. Because they've used Chrono Break in the past, but where it was so bad that they actually had a remake, plus everything that plagues day 2 and stuff like that. It's I'm gonna give it a 5 overall, and I'm a little biased because I don't like what happened.
Yeah,
I don't like the results.
That's kind of a good segue in the next one. Like last season, we always go through scores and that kind of stuff. And me and James were talking. We don't want to necessarily go through scores because we're not about one specific esport, but we just kind of want to talk about what do you take away from this. I mean, what I take away from this is Fnatic looked absolutely horrible week 1. Even after a remake, they still weren't even to kind of recover and come back there. Day 2, I watched some highlights. They just didn't look great there. And just, I don't know. They just didn't seem to be looking great. G2 is going to be scary as shit this season. If they don't win the entire LEC, I'll be blown away. And Origin, after all of the hype, didn't really live up to it to me. Like, they just did not look good. Sure, going against G2 day 1 isn't the best way to start, but that's kind of my big 3 takeaways. I think Fnatic will recover in the long run. I think G2 will go this entire first stage without losing a game, and I think Origin is probably going to be bottom of the pack.
Are you gonna Prediction King? You gonna Prediction King that?
Okay, yeah, let's predict. Okay, who do you think will win?
Who do I think is gonna win Split 1?
Yes.
Misfits. I got Misfits.
Okay, I'll take G2.
Okay, perfect. There we go. So okay, kind of add on to your commentary. Fnatic. So they had like this big promotional event where they were doing giveaways and shit like that, and they did this like cryptocurrency thing as well. They kind of integrated with that. It was a little controversial, but whatever. But they had Medic on there, and Medic's one of the casters. He's a great personality. And they explicitly brought up like, don't expect us to come out of the gate swinging. Don't expect us to do this because we are bringing in somebody brand new, has never played pros. Like he hasn't played like high pro. He's played the Spanish league, but that's it. So and you can see that Nemesis does not look like he's synced up with the rest of the cast. Like you can see that, and you can tell that the rest of the team is just like, I don't know what to do with this mid laner right now. I just still don't know what to do with him yet. So I like. Is it a bum start? Yes, but they have enough talent. They'll be fine. I'm not too worried about them. I think this is a week 1 fumble. I don't think this is gonna be anything else. I hate G2. I hate G2 so much. I was so happy when Oregon was like doing okay, and I was just like, hell yeah, screw G2. I have because there's so many like poaching controversies going on with that, and that to the point where it's really made me dislike the G2 brand, and I'm gonna wrap back to G2 in a second. But other than that, I love what Misfits are the cleanest team I've ever seen. They're disgusting. Like Misfits look phenomenal. And like some of the newcomers, like SK look great.
Yeah.
I'm
happy with the overall outplay of most of the new teams, which I was happy with. I'm glad that it all didn't come and got stomped on. They actually did do well. They stood the ground. Yeah,
I think Rogue is the only new organization to go 0-2. But and that's it. I think they're the only one. Plus it's them and Fnatic, and that's it. But to kind of wrap back to G2, I don't know if you saw, or I don't know if any of our listeners or our viewers saw this article the clip that was circulating on Reddit. The G2 actually did the Fnatic chant at the end of their victory. Yeah. And this was encouraged, as you can see in the video, by Ocelot, by that scarf wearing SOB himself. So and this is just it. And now we're getting into this there's sportsmanship starting to go out the window a little bit.
Well, they're embracing that they're the villains of the league. They're playing a role. They're role playing in the LEC right now, and I love it. I get it. That's what everyone's calling them. Why not live up to it?
I guess so. I don't know. Usually you don't see sports organizations turn heel, but I mean,
are you kidding me? Have you seen Tom Brady put out his own hype video before the game yesterday, and afterwards, on a video clip, he said, "We're too old." Someone said, "You're too old," and you said, "You're too slow," and they're just mocking what other people are saying about them. Are
you talking about the Chargers? Was it the Chargers defensive end? Are you talking about that clip?
No, 2 Patriot players are saying what they're just quoting what other people have been saying about him. Like Tom Brady was too old, the cornerback was too slow. They're just mocking what other people said about him. They live for that kind of mentality that people don't like them.
So is this something? Do you think this is something we should encourage and just be like,
oh my god? Yeah? I mean, poaching and that kind of stuff, the actual bad guy kind of stuff, no. But doing other teams' chants, playing up to that villain kind of role and everything, I think that's great. Don't do actual bad things, but play that
just
role
play the villain,
when you're on the stage.
And that's just it. I think this is where it's going to get convoluted. Is that G2 if you to use wrestling terms, if you want to turn heel, by all means do it, because it's going to work, it's going to sell. And their hype video really showed that, you know what I mean? Their hype video about against Oregon was really, really well done. But I mean, again, you have it associated with poaching, you have it associated with how manipulative perks can be, what lengths Ocelot will go to basically acquire players. That's where you're I don't know, man. I don't know how much I want to buy into that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll see how much they go. If they stay clean outside of the matches, I'll be fine with it. But
yeah.
The last thing I want to kind of talk about actually after matches and outside of stuff, and so there's something that you can kind of come in on with Dylan. That's kind of why I really wanted to bring this into this conversation. But Fnatic had a couple of interviews scheduled day 1 after their game. I'm sure they assumed they were going to win, and they just wanted to come back and do an interview right afterwards. They ended up losing, and they just all left stage. They didn't do the interviews like they had planned. I think it was just with one reporter that kind of brought it up. Dylan's frozen on us right now.
Oh yeah, he is too.
But they just said, like, nope, we're not going to do the interviews. And I just kind of want to hear what you guys think about that. Like, I know it's commonplace in esports. People have been saying that. Like, people have the right to do that. It happens all the time. But should it keep happening? Like, should that be something that's kind of acceptable? If you schedule an interview, but you lose, you just skip it. Like, that's not how traditional sports works. And I know we're not copying everything from traditional sports, but I think that's a level of professionalism that if you say you're going to do something, no matter the outcome, you still talk about it.
Dylan, you go ahead, buddy. I've been rambling for a little bit.
Yeah, so I actually did cut out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of it. Yeah, obviously. I mean, I don't think there's a controversial point there. I mean, like, if you say, hey, like, we're going to do an interview afterwards or whatever, and you want to uphold a little bit of professionalism, you should obviously go for it. I don't think there's any circumstance where you really don't. Like, even if you're at like an amateur level and you're like, hey, like we'll give a little talk on like the Twitch stream right after, like, win or lose or whatever, and you don't, that's like kind of a bad thing to do. So yeah. I mean, I feel like there's only one real answer for this. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like esports should really we really want to separate. We really want to create our own brand away from traditional sports. But I don't know if this is a good thing. Like, I don't know if this is something that, like, we should be known for. It's like, oh, we can dip interviews whenever the hell we want because that's just something we do in esports, right? Vice traditional sports. So I don't know. I don't know how it'll go. I don't know if this is going to become commonplace or like, you know, something that's like regular, you know what I mean? So
well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Riot's going to step in. I think it'd be more kind of like at an organizational level that this would kind of have to happen. I don't think Riot will step in and say, no, you have to, because like usually most of these interviews are with freelancers and stuff like that. Like the guy that was there, I forgot what organization he covered it for, but it wasn't like it was through Riot and they just blew off a Riot reporter.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a freelance third party kind of guy. I mean, it'd be like if we went up there, we somehow scheduled an interview with someone on Fnatic, and then they just decide not to do the interview afterwards. It really hurts smaller creators than anyone, because those other larger ones could get that kind of whenever they want. But if someone, that was one chance to get that interview, he's kind of out of luck there.
He's screwed.
That's the one thing that why I want to see it change, is that sometimes those interviews, since they don't have open like press sessions and stuff kind of like that, that can really hurt the publicity with it, that kind of talking to the PR aspect. So that's why I want to see it. And I think this is one thing we should take from traditional sports. I know we try to separate in a lot of ways, and I agree, trying to separate in a lot of ways, but I think maybe not an open press after every single game, but if you kind of commit to something, or you give a 5-minute window after each game just to talk real briefly, even if it's just one person, I think there should be something like that, but I don't expect Riot to step in and form something like that.
I think it should probably be like more high profile things that you have like a presser after or before. Yeah. I mean, I can't really see a world where like every single game you would kind of have that, especially if like there's one for like the winning and losing team.
Yeah.
So like maybe if it was just like some of the more high profile matches that you have that presser with, or maybe, you know, just a quick interview with the winner of the team. Because usually you don't always have like an interview with the losing team, especially a lot of the players. I would actually advise against that, because, you know, they're in like the worst spirits at that moment. So like, yeah, it's like good content, but like they don't really want to talk. So like, don't even like set up that situation of where they're not even going to really want to talk with you, and just kind of avoid that whole mess just outright.
Yeah, I think I kind of like I think I weighed in on Twitter on this. Like, I think that's I think I'm quoting myself right now, but like larger events, by all means, interview the loser. Like we saw it at Worlds. Like we got some of the best interviews from losing at Worlds. You know what I mean? Like Yamato Cannon's crazy ass speech about playing your game and stuff like that. That was from a losing interview. So I do agree that I think there is a place for losers interviews. It's just not in the regular season. I do like the idea of like press coverage though. I like the idea of like having pressers set up maybe before and after the game, and I don't know, either have like a player or like a team representative or something like that kind of come out and answer questions. I don't know. I would almost kind of like that, because I think it would add to the esports journalism like scope. Like Does anybody see that? Do you agree? Maybe yes, no. I don't know. Like
maybe I don't know. It's just it's an interesting topic because even if it's consistent for one league, it could for the next esport it could be totally different too.
That's true, and I think that's a big thing too. Is like we're so spread out as far as like our consistencies across like each esport that like you're not gonna really see. Like I mean, like I don't know. They might do this in Rainbow, and they might not do it in I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right? I think at this point, I think we had a good discussion here. We just put a pin on it. Maybe bring it back up later if something else happens or changes. But I think right now, there's not too much more we can kind of really go into without starting to kind of just talk out of our asses. If I'm, pardon my French, but I think it's kind of a good time just to kind of go on to the next story because we spent a good amount of time talking about the LEC wrapping that up, and we'll bring that up from time to time. But I don't think we want to go over scores as much, so we'll talk more about bigger kind of events, kind of like what we did today. But I want to talk about WoW Esports. James, I'll actually kind of hand it back over to you. I know you talked a lot there too, but I know Dylan, you play WoW too. I'm not too much into it, but what do you kind of think about this? I mean, Blizzard seems to kind of be making a step forward here for
WoW Esports?
Yeah.
So the big thing is that Blizzard kind of like showed everybody their roadmap for like 2019 like esports, like and what they kind of their game plan was for it. So we kind of saw this nice influx during Legion, the most recent X-Pack, or not the most recent, the second most recent X-Pack with Warcraft, where they're doing like the MDI, the like the Mythic Dungeon Invitational. Like we were seeing like we were actually seeing a resurgence above like or app like like from like just Arena, because Arena was like slowly starting to die. So they invested in it pretty heavily. Like so I mean they laid it out how they were going to do it, how they were going to have NAEU finals, China finals, APAC, Latin America. They were doing open qualifiers and everything. They laid it out very nicely, and they did a nice graphic and stuff like that. And they actually left they actually like it like gave like prize pools and stuff like that. And on top of that, they also basically gave players a way to like support the esports scene with in-game shop items. Now there's like a lot of controversy about the in-game shop. Like there's always been about like buying like mounts, buying toys and stuff like that, because the big issue is that they go towards achievements, and that's the big thing, right? And like you shouldn't have to pay to like enable an achievement, right? So I don't know, Dylan, like what's your stance on this? I don't know, man. I just wish it wasn't counted towards an achievement, and I think I'd be okay with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a big issue for a really long time. I forget what the exact term for like the mounts that you can only use cash to buy. I forget what the
cash shop item or cash shop mount.
It might be like cash shop only. But that's always been a big point of contingency for a lot of WoW players, because like you literally have to spend money on this, and it feels bad when technically if you play enough WoW you can kind of play for free because you can earn enough gold to like buy the token and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish it didn't count towards the achievements, because that means you literally have to spend cash to be a completionist, and that just feels bad. So I wish they didn't, but I don't know. I don't know what a good solution would be.
That's just it. Like, I mean, it's nice to see this element is added. It's nice to see that esports are being added, but it's the controversy that comes behind the game shop and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know how you would do it better. You know what I mean? Like, do you make it a different achievement on its own? How do you properly execute that? Right?
Like maybe you put it in a different category, I guess, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean that's just it, right? And then like, but I mean, again, like achievement hunters, like they're a thing. Like a lot of guys, like my buddy referred to them as like chips and stuff like that, and I think that's like kind of like a wide thing. Is like you want as much achievement points as you can, and like I mean, if you have to physically pay to get them, it's not good. But seeing them support the esports scene is wicked. That's great. Like I mean, and that's something that Warcraft has finally started to take steps in. With surprisingly, I think we ripped on Activision for a solid like hour last week. Like I mean, and all the things they're doing wrong, and this is like one of the few things they're doing right. And like,
actually, something I totally forgot on the docket too. But there's actually 2 esports now that Blizzard has actually kind of taken a step towards getting more involved in. And I don't want to cut the WoW conversation short, so I'll bring that back up. But we forgot to put it on the docket. But they announced LAN events for Overwatch Contenders 2 this week.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything else you guys want to say about WoW, or do we want to go up and just kind of apologize to saying Blizzard doesn't care about T2 Overwatch, and then literally a day later they put out Tier 2 Overwatch stuff?
Well, okay. First, let's not apologize because they were messing up for months on end. And
I was gonna say,
let's go wrap that up because like it is an interesting thing that they're doing with WoW Esports, and a lot of people don't really focus in on WoW Esports. And I know James and I definitely watched a decent amount of the Mythic Dungeon Invitational. MVI is what they're branding it now.
Yeah, like,
sorry, go on, James.
No. I was gonna say, like, I don't know where to peg Activision. Like, I mean, they're killing one esport, trying to resurrect another, and then they're like I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about them anymore.
It's all about money and where they think they can make it, and they think bringing WoW back, because obviously WoW has been what Blizzard's been built off of for years. So they're like, okay, let's put more money into WoW Esports, try to grow that. And then here's the storm. Our Activision probably just saw as a money sink.
Give them the axe, yeah.
And that's kind of like that. And yeah, so I guess I want to kind of move over to the contenders kind of things here, because like you're saying, Blizzard's just kind of all over the radar on this.
Yeah.
Because even though, so kind of a little bit of information here. I have to pull it up on my phone because I totally forgot to look over it beforehand. But what it was, they have a Pacific and an Atlantic showdown where teams kind of from both of those areas are going to be coming towards the end of the season. And I think most regions get either top 2 spots or just one, depending on their size. And they play for kind of a best of that side of the world. So either the Pacific side or the Atlantic side. And then based on that, people can get into the gauntlet kind of at the end of the year, which will then kind of deem like who is the best in the world to be the one big LAN event to kind of rule all of contenders, which we finally started to get to see these teams like Drop Bears, Fusion, and Runaway, which all seem dominant, actually could play each other finally, hopefully. But
the Drop Bears
LAN events, yes, we want that. Everyone wants that. But now there's rumors of, Cade was kind of mentioning this in the chat even, that Korea, which is the only one right now that has LAN contenders, may be closed down. There's talks of the World Cup going away because of these 3 events now. And Blizzard's kind of all over the place. Like, they want to only halfway commit to some LAN events. They want to take away other LAN events. Like, I don't know. This is an up and down kind of reaction to me right now, because I loved watching the Runaway series because it's so much fun. I mean, I love seeing the child, seeing Flowervin on stage dancing around after every win. Like, I want more of that, and you don't get that anywhere else.
Yeah, so actually, just like in regards to the weird stuff that's happening with Blizzard Esports, it makes me really think that one or two things are happening. So either one, Activision is looking at this purely from another like a numbers standpoint and is going, hey, here's like 50% of the budget here, here's 20, we're cutting you out, and just like going off on that. Or like the Blizzard Esports model of having each game be its own like little esport and managed by its own esports team is really true, and that they're just not communicating, they're just kind of doing their own thing. Both of those seem completely viable, and that would be totally on brand for them. I hope it's not the former. Is that the right one? I hope it's not the Activision one, because obviously that's the one that we don't want. We don't want like big corporate Activision ruling over Blizzard Esports and saying what esports are going to make and which ones are going to break. But who knows? Hopefully everything kind of balances out and catches up. But I do agree. I like the Atlanta events a lot because having things in person is always a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, that's just it. Like, I mean, that's why. And the big thing is too is like, for the players, it's always like the biggest attraction, right? Like crazy ass LAN events that you can like go physically show up at, right?
And that was part of the reason why Blizzard said that, is that we feel like they said, which kind of loosely they were bragging a little bit, like we feel we do a very good job on our path to pro. First off, you don't.
Weird flex, but okay.
Every single situation except for these live experiences, and then we don't prepare them for OWL in that sense. So this is kind of why they did that, but then they take away the Korean one and just kind of like,
Cheshire. Yeah,
like, so they obviously think they're doing a lot better than they actually are, which isn't good, because there's a lot of ways they can improve even at the open division and contenders level. But the justification behind finally doing LAN events isn't good. But you gotta think, it's only for a couple of teams. I mean, with how Fusion's playing, they're always going to be one of those spots in that Atlantic one.
Yeah.
Sydney Drop Bears hasn't lost in years. Runaway's unbelievable. Like, there's only so many teams that get that experience, and realistically, those are the teams that are probably gonna go up to the Owl one day. But still, like these lower level players don't get that experience still because it's very selective.
Yeah, like it's I don't, you know what, I bet if Korea gave them one more team in like the expansion, we're like, yeah, we'll give you 2 teams instead of 1, they would have cut them. If it was like China and they gave like 3 teams, we would have still seen them around.
Well, I mean, the whole idea.
I'm memeing, but I mean like.
But I mean, the whole idea of it is that like if you have top tier players, they'll make it into the Overwatch League, and then like therefore it kind of balances itself out because like like say if like Philly like they have an amazing team and they're crushing it and they have amazing players. In theory, they would move up, and then their team skill level would go down for a little bit, probably.
Yeah.
Like hopefully that's the idea.
It's the rebuilding phase, right? Like I mean, you see it in traditional sports all the time, right?
And like college ball, you have that all the time. Like you can have a really good program that has really good staff, and therefore turns out like better teams, because they have better infrastructure. But like usually, once you have that big turnover of really good players, there is a little bit of a balancing.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I mean, I'm a huge Oregon fan, and they're kind of going through that right now. Like, I mean, where they lost like Marcus Mariota like a couple years ago and stuff like that. Like, don't shake your head at me. What's wrong with Oregon? What's wrong with the Ducks?
I'll just leave it there.
Oh my. But yeah, so I don't like. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do we? I don't know. Blizzard's like in the gray area right now. I don't know what to do with them.
Yep.
I have no idea.
I mean, in terms of Overwatch, they took a step forward in my mind. Because there's still rumors. I don't think it's been official that KR is canned for LAN events. World Cup isn't officially canceled or anything like that. So maybe everything ends up working out and everyone's happy. But right now, it's one step forward, and let's hope they don't take 2 steps back after this, because you never know with Blizzard. But with that, we'll talk about that the next time that comes up. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the weeks to come as more information about this kind of starts to roll out and become official. But before we jump into our next news story, I want to do Twitch Prime reminder. Is that if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime, and that means you can take your money away from Amazon, who has too much of it, and give it to any creator that you want. I mean, obviously, we'd love for it to be us. All you have to do is push the little button right above Dylan right now. It'll get you to emotes coming up. It gets you, just supports us and lets us know that we're doing a good job and like the content we create. But even if you don't give it to us, give it to someone, because for any content creator, anyone that creates content, any kind of love like that means the world to them. So make sure to take that back. And it does not renew each month. So every single month you can give that to a new person. Keep giving the same one, but just make sure to keep using it. And that's just the little subscribe button on any channel that has affiliate or better. But with that, Dylan, I want to hand it over to you and a little bit of, I don't want to say troubling news, but something I was not expecting.
Let's talk some finances, boys. You know, everyone's favorite topic. Let's get deep into those numbers. Let's get deep into some shares. So the big news is that Infinite Esports Entertainment, which the company that owns Outlaws and Optic, you know, that's probably how you know them. So they had a bunch of shares that got sold out from Texas Esports. So Texas Esports was a majority shareholder. They had like $150 million, like tons and tons of money, and they're selling their shares, which, so obviously majority shareholders, you know, they hold a lot of stake in a company because basically they can go, hey, we want to do this with the company. We want to take it in this direction. That's how shareholders work. Yeah. So this is kind of concerning because we don't know who the shares are going to go over to. Is it going to be picked up by one big company that's going to come in and take Optic and Outlaws into a different direction? The other thing that was a little bit troubling because of this is that their smaller team, I guess, which is GG Esports Academy. So I think they used to be a contenders team. They were like Optic's academy team. They were called like GG Esports Academy. They like got axed by the upper company. Like Optic just like cut them as a team, which was weird because they hired a bunch of people and brought them out to Texas. And then they were like, oh, by the way, like no more. And like it was weird because I was actually looking at, I think it's called like Hitmarker. It's like a esports job posting site. And I like a couple months before it happened, I saw like a bunch of like ads like, hey, GG Esports needs like a coach or whatever and stuff like that. And then presumably they got filled. And then they were like, oh, sorry. Hope you didn't uproot your entire life to come out to Texas. And so obviously I think that kind of probably sent ripples in. So the thing that could be concerning is that Texas Esports is selling their majority shares in this because they don't like the direction, Optic and Outlaws are going internally, which I hope that's really not the case. I hope it's more of just Texas Esports wants to move on to something else. But
Okay,
I mean, if you're Texas
I was
Esports,
hoping to say something like that because this is a company called Texas Esports, and they own the largest esports organization in Texas. What else can they want to move into? So I think there's a couple of things that I want to kind of bring up from this. One, they could think they're getting more money than what they paid for, and that this is a money move, and that they're going to make money off this so they can invest in other things. That could be one thing. Two, Optic could be falling apart more on the inside than we expected. We talked about them cutting a while back. Maybe that organization is in trouble, and this is an early sign of that, is that they want out because they see trouble coming. And three, it could be because they're not getting money back. And this could be because of that OWL investment. Obviously, if you're a majority shareholder, a lot of the money going into it is coming from you. And that could mean that they don't think in the long term they're going to get their money back. They're trying to cut their ties now, get what they can, and get out. So do you think it's one of those three things, something else, and just what do you think about all that?
So before I just let James go off, because I know I just talked for a bunch right there. I just want to say that hopefully it is they want to sell things off because hopefully they want to start more stuff in Texas. And I mean, maybe an ideal scenario is they see Overwatch League is not going to be profitable, but not profitable, if that makes any sense. Like maybe they're like kind of just cutting even or maybe just above even, keeping things afloat, but having very small growth, which kind of would be cool because like then it won't die.
Yeah, I right now, just with how esports is all these companies are private. I can't wait till we see our first public company because I would love to see what they're kind of getting from this. Like, we have no idea of kind of the numbers behind a lot of this. We get ballpark numbers of how much buy-ins and all this kind of stuff, but we have no idea the sponsorship numbers, what they're playing some players. Like, that's the one thing about the NFL and stuff. Contracts, all that stuff is usually a lot more open. Really, the financial scene, we can do nothing more than just guess and look at it because there's no numbers anywhere, and we're not able to compare it to anything because there's no publicly traded companies. And I'm not saying someone should just go publicly traded for that reason, but once it gets to that stage, we'll have so much more insight because unless you're part of these organizations or you do something for them, you have no ideas with numbers. Like if we Google numbers, we could find nothing for any of these organizations. So this could be happening for so many reasons, and without having any information, it's super hard to know.
I don't think this is Optic being like, let's get out of esports. I don't think that's it at all. Like I genuinely think we're seeing one or two things. We're seeing a shift in internal management. You got to remember too, Optic's been around for ages. Optic is like OG. So there could be, they may have grown way too quick. They may have grown way too quick. And then because of that, they didn't know really what to do. They may have, like we've talked about this before, when they expanded too quick, they weren't ready for it, and they're like, oh my god, we gotta do stuff because they just signed Crown. They signed Crown from Korea. Crown's like ex pro player, everything like that. I don't see an organization who's like okay, this guy's an ex world champion. Let's sign him. Let's sign him to our league roster. Who's doing okay? They're doing all right. Let's bring this in. Like we have an Overwatch team. We have a league team. I think this is them trying to cut their losses in smaller areas, sell off what they can, and then probably flip and reinvest into another another esport.
So James, so just to reiterate, this is Texas Esports selling their shares in Optic.
In Optic, yeah. My apologies.
Yeah. So basically, this is just. Oh wow, I'm blank on literally every investor name in existence right now. Who's the dude that owns Echo Fox or whatever?
Rick Fox? Rick Fox?
Maybe, I don't know.
Rick Fox is at the top of Echo.
Okay, well maybe is he an investor? I don't. Yeah, like just say
he's an owner. Yeah.
No, maybe not him. What's the other dude? He's on Shark Tank or whatever. The big
Mark
name
Cuban?
dude. Yeah, it's like if he pulled out of like anything, It doesn't mean that the company is pulling out.
No, but the backing. Yeah. So I mean, like maybe maybe do you think it's like results based? Like that's why they're dipping because
I think it is.
Yeah, like Outlaws didn't do phenomenal. Outlaws didn't do great. Optic Gaming and League didn't do amazing. Their academy team didn't do amazing either. So they're probably like, okay, well maybe this organization just doesn't know.
They're just gonna
how
flip
to
and go support Dallas Fuel now. They're just gonna switch,
exactly.
switch to a different, the only other Texas organization, because you can't invest outside of Texas when you call it Texas Esports.
No, exactly. You're going to Dallas. Like you're going to Dallas Fuel, right?
Well, actually, I think maybe like results based, not on the wins and losses, but maybe the money. Bill brought this up in chat a little bit earlier, but maybe they're not seeing percentage gains like they would like to. Like it's not like blowing up out of like proportions and being super crazy, sick money gains or anything. So
yeah,
maybe they're pulling out because of that. They don't want the slow burn.
When did they invest in Optic though? Do we know how long ago before when they got there? Because like I don't like, to me that's kind of weird, because like if they're not seeing the money gain recently, like I don't know, why would you invest at all? Because like I mean it would make sense if they invested right at the beginning of Riot going to franchising and Overwatch League being announced and stuff like that. If they announce it there and be like, oh, this is sick, we can get in on this and do that. But if they're there prior to that, it doesn't make sense, because up until then, there wasn't a ton of money in esports. There wasn't an insane amount of money in esports. We're getting there now, but I mean, this seems like a weird time to dip. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'd like to figure out the timeline on when they invested into Optic, and then we can kind of that can kind of help us judge from there, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I think really at this point we'll wrap back around to it when that sale happens. Because I think that's when we come back and talk about it, we start seeing some more numbers coming out. Maybe there's reasoning behind why it's happening. So I think the best thing is to put it, just kind of wrap it up here today and come back to it down the road, kind of when we see more about that.
Can I bring up one last thing about this? Because the article was super, super interesting, because I don't really know that much about like the financial aspects of like investing and all that. So like one of the co-owners for the Texas Rangers acquired Optic. But when he did that, he was like, all right, let's go into investor mode and do weird finance stuffs. And they set up like a ton of different like sub companies that do other different stuff. So they have like a media arm, like No Scope Media, and then they have like a clothing branch, and then they have like a fitness branch. Like they have like smaller sub companies like below. Like it's really weird. I mean, this might be the norm for like normal companies. Just have like these smaller ones underneath, but like I don't know stuff like this. This is weird.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, like do we think this guy just didn't really know? I don't know. I'm not going to divulge because I know we're running out of time. So like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far.
Yeah, and so I guess we are kind of running low on time. I know we had 2 topics left. I want you guys to pick which one we kind of touch on today.
I think we can bang in both. I think we can.
Yeah, well, let's knock them out quick.
Okay, James, I'll hand it over to you then.
Cool. All right. So some nutty stuff happened. Some nutty stuff happened over the weekend. So for anybody who doesn't know, F1 esports is a thing. Formula 1 esports is a thing, and like it's a big deal. Are we not talking about this? Is that the look you're giving me?
Not honorable mentions. We're going back to IBA.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll make that real quick. We'll get back to Formula 1 esports later. Don't worry. I'm all over the place tonight, guys. I apologize. So yeah, IBP Masters was a live event for CS:GO over the weekend. It was in Hollywood. I know this because I stared at that screen for I don't know how long. That persisted to have around 4 to 5 hours of technical difficulties, to the point where like people were leaving, people were compensated with mouse pads. It was a mess. There was some reporters like live streaming it and being like, "There's nobody in the crowd, everybody's gone." Like it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Like it was ridiculous. And then when the live event actually ended up going, and like there were some big names there too. There was like Cloud9, and Fnatic was there. Like there was some big CS:GO team names. The actual monitor where you actually watch the game was like, I don't know, maybe like a 55-inch TV. Like it was not big. They had a giant ass screen in the back and they didn't use it. I don't know if it wasn't hooked up or whatever, but it was riddled with technical difficulties. So I don't know. iBuy Power is not looking too hot right now as far as like their
one
events.
of the first major LAN events for the CS:GO season 2, which that's why a lot of reporters were there and that kind of stuff. Like it was kicking off the CS:GO season, and this just shows the second esport now in a row that's had a very rough start, kind of getting out, and it doesn't look good for iBuy. What is it, iBuy Power, right?
iBuy Power, yeah.
I mean,
I have one
they're
of the computers,
a PC company, and they just had issues with their own PCs, so not looking great there too. And I know technical issues are usually not out of control. I mean, I've worked tech before and all that kind of stuff, and like sometimes you just don't expect what's kind of happening, and there's only so much you can do. But that's what test runs for, and that's why you prepare ahead of time. That's why you make sure this stuff doesn't happen, especially when it's the first event of the season. It's not like anything's like pushing up to you. Like you have a set date, like you know when it's happening. Nothing's changing around you. You are the start. Like you have time to figure it out.
Make sure it works, guys. But yeah, so like insane amounts of technical difficulties. Like those happen, but they don't usually happen for 4 to 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
they had there's games that was supposed to start at 11. They pushed it back to 1, and then it kept pushing back. And they made the decision to start the 3 o'clock games first on time, and then they played the 11 o'clock game. So that got all screwed up, and there's just questionable choices here all around. I wish you would have more time to talk about it, but
because
there was a lot we did in the LEC too, though. Like it's just technical issues. Like I don't know. Like it's an online tournament. It's an online game, but I think your tech should be number one, and everything else should be secondary to that.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. We're with the venue later.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I apologize. Oh yeah, there we go. We got that out of the way. We're good.
Yeah. Dylan, let's talk about another kind of part of events, and that's the celebration at the end. I mean...
Oh my god, this is my favorite thing in esports. So actually, no, second favorite. My favorite is like the early 2000s era of esports when everyone was like super futuristic and wore like the tinfoil clothing and stuff. But besides that, my favorite thing is celebrations in esports because they're all so bad and they're all awkward and they're weird and they never work out right. So Runaways... They have a whole bunch of new players, beat the odds, did an amazing job, won. They hoist up the trophy and it breaks. Like classic like esports celebration just and like someone did a high res photo and it looks like it was actually glued, like the handles, one of them was like glued on, but it wasn't glued on I guess well enough and so it broke off. But this just adds to like the whole esports celebrations being terrible. So notable things is champagne. You bring in the champagne. None of these dudes know how to open champagne. Most of them aren't of drinking age, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this thing. So they have to have like a production dude come over and open it for them, and then they don't know to put their finger on it to like blast it everywhere. So like you have videos of like them shaking it, like but with their finger not on the top, and it just like falls out and just like splashes everywhere. And then the best ceremony of all time was Firebat Hero. So the article that we read that kind of summed it all up was from Esports. Nicole Carpenter wrote it. She's fantastic.
Which, speaking of, she's leaving Esports and going freelance.
She's going freelance.
Good luck with you on that.
Yes.
That's so scary.
And so she summed this all up really well, and this was a big nostalgia hit for me because I remember this one. So Firebat Hero won Pro League, like the Pro League finals, and like whenever he did, he like for some reason this was StarCraft. It was like on a beach for some reason. They played the finals on a beach.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
It was early like StarCraft. So they played it on a beach, and then he like rips all his clothes off with nothing but his boxers and just runs into the sea.
That's amazing.
It's like nighttime on like a random beach in Korea, and he just like runs into the ocean, just like jumps in and then comes out. And then everyone's like, okay, cool.
I love that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the article she wrote was wonderful because it was a bunch of really good nostalgia hits for me because I love esports celebrations because they're all so weird and they need to stop. They just need to stop and just let players just stand there and do nothing.
So is that your solution to how to fix esports celebrations? Is just to tell everyone to stop doing them?
No, this is what you do, right? The team wins, and you go, all right, stand there and just, like, look hype. Just don't give them a trophy. Just don't give them anything.
No trophy, even?
Dude, they break it.
This is what we can't
break it. They can't lift it up because the trophy's too heavy sometimes. Like,
I just...
We're not...
Esports
agree, players aren't meant for outside.
No running into oceans, but I think
That's
taking away a
awesome.
trophy is a bit extreme here. I think, if anything, buy a little nicer trophy. I mean...
Give them medals. Put the medals around their neck. That'd be good.
Medals I can do. But I think a trophy is just nice. And speaking of Overwatch trophies, ugly. That's been going around since this whole kind of thing came up. But I don't know if there's a solution. Avoiding liquids around computers and people that don't commonly drink them. And just higher quality trophies is what I recommend.
Sure. Like, okay.
That's how
I
you
mean,
fix it.
I think we're just going to keep seeing things like this over and over. And this is like a good thing to talk about because it's funny. It's silly. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And at the end of the day, it's a good meme. I think we can all appreciate a good meme.
If there's one thing esports players love, it's good memes, man.
That's true, and I mean the quote of the stream may be that broken trophy is a representation of tier 2 Overwatch. That is for contenders. I'm sorry. That is a metaphor for contenders, to be honest, and I don't disagree with that either. So, the step back for Blizzard. Let's say that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's another step back for them. Okay, come
But
on, guys.
with that, I think we have 2 quick honorable mentions we want to just briefly touch on before kind of get into the wrap up.
Yeah, no, I jumped the gun on this way too quick. I thought I got the outline all screwed up in my head. But yeah, no. So yeah, F1 Esports, Formula 1 like sim racing and all that good stuff, is I guess huge in Europe. So huge to the point that one of the pro players actually beat an F1 driver on the track. They both got into a car and they did a trap, like they basically did like the mirror, like they basically went around the track like in opposite directions, and the F1 sim driver actually beat the pro. I couldn't believe it. I watched. He beat him by like a full 2 seconds. It was ridiculous. And like, I mean, it makes me think like, okay, well, I mean, you know, he's used to using the controls. Like, this is nothing new to him, right? I mean, he's got to get used to G's, I guess. But I mean, like, they weren't like flying, so it was. I don't know, man. It was nutty. I couldn't believe it watching the video. Like,
and it was also a thing that just totally not a thing here. Sim racing is not really big here in the US.
It's not, yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess racing outside of NASCAR isn't really talked about too much here.
We don't like
kind of.
Yeah, like I mean, like
here.
rally is like we don't even have that, right? Like I mean, we have it, but it's not like big,
yeah.
Right?
So when I watched it, I thought that was unbelievable. I think that's super cool. Yeah, that is an honorable mention because there's not much to talk about here, but that's still super hype.
It's just awesome, yeah.
So I think what they should do is the company should advertise that for their game because yeah, this simulation racing game is such a good simulation that you could be a pro if you're good at it. It's a 1-to-1, I guess.
I mean, if you're that guy, do you just switch over to F1 racing?
Well, see, like it wasn't like they didn't get that fast, but I mean, like it was like there's still maneuverability.
It was like it was a time track instead of an.
It was a time
race,
track,
which is
yeah.
totally different, and that it's more comparable to because obviously in a racing sim 2, it's not about going super fast; it's about hitting that corner at the right angle and all that kind of stuff I know nothing about. So that's kind of why they did that on that kind of a time track versus an actual race track. Mm-hmm. That's very different experiences, but.
I mean, it's still. You know what? I think it's a big flex for the esports community. I think we can ride that for a little bit. I was real into that.
And I guess the last honorable mention is we talked so much about Philadelphia Fusion last week and how they've done so well. They've won every single season of NA contenders and all that kind of stuff. And we also talked about the Sydney Drop Bears. And they actually went on to beat the Fusion's record. They also have won all 3 seasons. They had a 30-1 map record this year.
It's disgusting. It's gross.
And the one map they lost was in the finals. They had not lost a single map all contender season until the very last match, and that was only one to the second best team in the entire Australian.
They told me they were gonna do it too. They messaged me and they're like, "We were gonna do it." Like you can see it on my Twitter, and I was just like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah, I know they've been interacting with them a bunch too, so that's super fun. But that's just.
Yeah, and they did it. Like, I mean, the Sydney Drop Murder Bears they did it. Like, that's insane. Good for them, man.
And
Good
that's
job,
the conversation. Guys. I mean, I think that's why these LAN events will be fun. Because right now, we have Runaway. Phenomenal success. They are just unmatched in Korea for the contenders. Fusion, unmatched in NA. Sydney Drop Bears, unmatched in OCE, Australia, whatever that circuit is. I can't think of all. And when you see these teams coming together now, you can kind of figure out who's going to be the best, and then it's not domination because obviously the best players are going to keep going to these pain teams in the regions, and now when you put these regions up against each other, I think it'll be a lot more fun, and it's a better scouting ground for kind of the Overwatch League too, because you see who's really the best of the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with that, we just want to bring that up because, the Drop Bears have been fun interacting with us a little bit too. So, want to throw them congratulations and talk about that because we brought a Philadelphia Fusion for that same exact reason. But with that, I want to thank everyone so much for tuning in to this week's episode for January 21st, 2019 of the Project Esports podcast.
Thank you for all the interactions in the chat. Thank you for the subscribes. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for reaching out to us on Twitter. Shout out to you, City Drop Bears. And we like, honestly though, we eat this shit up, guys. We love it. So thank you so much.
And we go live every single Monday right here on twitch.tv/The Game House at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. And if you missed a live show, we're on every single podcast platform, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, every single podcast platform the following day. So that's Tuesday in the morning. If you just search Project Esports podcast, you can find us there. Or if you want to watch the VOD, just go to the Game House's YouTube page and we're on there as well.
Yeah, but with that, I'm Andrew.
I'm James.
And I'm Dylan.
Thank you for watching the Project Esports podcast. We will see you guys next week.